Welcome to Disruptive Capitalists, the show where purpose-driven entrepreneurs and bold investors share how they're reshaping the world by investing time and money in a way that improves lives and creates wealth. So let's get to it. Everyone, welcome to the Disruptive Capitalists podcast. Today, my guest is Joey Mure, who is the co-founder and partner at Wealth Without Wall Street, an online community that seeks to re-educate business owners and families on how money truly works, because folks, school doesn't teach us that at all, which is so weird. But anyhow, Wall Street is not just a street in New York that puts Americans' money at risk, which is where I feel too, but it's also a commonly taught mindset. Wealth Without Wall Street exists to help people who want to become financially free without ever having to invest through Wall Street or becoming debt free. A little slight at anyhow. All right, Joey, thank you for joining the show. So good to have you on again. And man, it's fun talking to you.
No, this is going to be great. I love being with like-minded people, so we can talk about anything.
Well, let's do that. First, let's talk about you a little bit. Why did you start Wealth Without Wall Street?
Well, Wealth Without Wall Street is ultimately my story and helping people to break free of some of the things that were holding me back. And just to kind of sum that up really quickly, I was the guy that did all the right things, checked all the boxes, grew up, did great in school, got the good grades, went to college, got the degree, got involved in corporate America, and started rising up the ladder and realized, man, a larger income doesn't equal freedom. It doesn't actually equal financial success. You may be able to buy nicer things, but your time is actually slipping away. In fact, I remember many times looking up, I was in the mortgage business at the time, and finding myself on vacation with my wife and 5 daughters, which, by the way, you can pray for me after this podcast.
$5, what a beautiful thing.
It is. But I'm sitting there on vacation, and I remember distinctly telling my daughters and my wife, hey, you guys go on down to the beach, go on that boardwalk, and I'll be there. I just have to take one more call. And what happens? 4 hours later, I'm walking down that boardwalk, and they're walking up the opposite way. And I don't need to explain to you, but you can feel the disappointment on their face and the discouragement that dad is physically here, but mentally miles away. And for me, it was because I was on the hamster wheel. I was on the never-ending proverbial hamster wheel. They call it the rat race for a reason, because you can't ever stop. When you're the only asset at work, you can't stop. But when you have money at work, now all of a sudden that takes the pressure off of you. You start to be able to actually live with intentionality and be able to give back to this world your God-given traits and strengths and things of that nature. And I knew that there had to be a different way. And in 2009, I started down a path personally that I didn't realize was going to make such a big impact, but it did. And it had such a big impact that by 2014, I said, I need to be teaching people this stuff, because this is not commonly known. Like, people are not talking about this. And that led us to eventually starting Wealth Without Wall Street, now having a passive income lab and teaching people to be investors who create more passive income than they have monthly expenses. And I'm happy to dive into all those aspects, but that's looking back. We exist to teach people the process we went through in about a third of the time, and to getting to financial freedom.
That's amazing. There's so many people who figure it out and then they never share. And I remember growing up in rural Oklahoma as a kid in American poverty. I've been all over the world now. I know what extreme poverty looks like. America, probably the closest thing America has to extreme poverty is on some of the Indian reservations where they still don't have access to power, which is crazy, but that's true. Outside of that, we just really don't experience it here in the US like they do elsewhere. But nonetheless, I kept thinking like there is something I'm doing wrong, something my parents are doing different and wrong. And as it turns out, the only way to freedom, like you said, is passive income. It is the only way. And I'm 29 years old. I'm in college, get my bachelor's degree, and I remember a guy saying, like, let me show you what the point of freedom is. The point of freedom in your life. And he showed this graph. He said, when your passive income exceeds your active expenses, at that point, you get to decide what you do in life. Outside of that, you're working. And which to me is why the 401k plan will never work, because it generates zero active income. And in fact, the government hopes you die before you get access to that money, right? The same with Social Security. Hopefully you die before they have to cough it up. And you just try and go get access to that money. It's incredibly hard and you get penalized. And so it's like they're not trying to help you become financially free. They're just, yeah, it's a different scheme. But the only way is passive income. And I didn't realize that until, yeah, it was in the, same around the same time you did, actually.
Yeah, exactly. I was right around the same age as what you're mentioning. And, I don't have the most popular opinions about certain financial vehicles because everybody thinks, man, a 401k is a good thing. And I would say it actually is a good thing. It depends on your goal.
Yeah.
If your goal is to actually be financially free and as you were saying, I was thinking to myself, this is what I always think, you pull up your phone, you see all the little color coded boxes on your phone. Are you the person that is placing those boxes on your calendar or somebody else? The only time that you become the person that places those boxes is when your passive income exceeds your monthly expenses. There is no other way.
Yeah.
Right? And retirement is not the answer, because retirement is predicated off of a lot of assumptions that we're not guaranteed. I mean, from a biblical perspective, you're not guaranteed tomorrow. So why are we living and deferring life and saying, well, eventually I'll be able to travel. Eventually I'll be able to give my time to this incredible ministry or this community outreach that I'm really passionate about, but I only have this much time because I have to work. Those are the things that I want to challenge you. If you've given up on those things, there actually is a much simpler way to get there than you probably believe. And the reason you believe that it's so hard is because Wall Street has actually made it sound like it's very, very complex. Like, you know what? Hey, you don't know how the right portfolio theory to manage your money in such a way that you're going to have the risk adjusted returns. And, they use all the jargon in the world to make you feel like you don't know what to do with your money. And they've encouraged and they've actually enticed you to say someone else should manage your money for you. And I'm just willing to stand on this today and say, God did not call you to give up and abdicate that responsibility to somebody else. You are a steward of what you've been given. And I want you to encourage you to steward it in a way that's super simple. If I have dollars, how can I trade those dollars for more passive income or less monthly expenses? If the dollars I have do not go to do one of those two jobs, then I am not getting any closer to the ultimate goal of financial freedom. And that's why. It's not because of the rate of return. It's not because of the fact that stock markets are going up and down and your 401k is tied to this roller coaster of this casino. Mm-hmm. It's because it doesn't produce a passive income today and it doesn't reduce a monthly expense. In that case, when I actively put money into one of those 401ks, 403bs, whatever the alphabet soup that you've been told, none of those things get you closer to financial freedom. And when I say that, I mean today, not 20 years from now. We're
Right.
talking about you want financial freedom today. So,
Yep.
I mean, we can dive into a whole lot more, but it's funny how you're saying that. Like, we've just been told this is good for us. In fact, you never even see the money. It comes out before your paycheck even hits your bank account, right? It's
Yeah.
like, wow, nothing else works like that in the world. Like, nothing.
Nothing. Taxes, right? Maybe it comes out before you get your paycheck. It's because what they don't trust you with your own money. One, but it's not really even about that. It's about, you know, it's about a for-profit machine that was able to get access to your paycheck and then spin
100%.
it as something that's good for you. And 401ks were designed for wealthy people who had tons and tons of cash who needed some place to park it without um, taxes so they could pass it on to their kids or their downward generation. It was never designed as a retirement tool.
Well, actually, I'll disagree with you on that.
Yeah.
The 401k was designed to take the pressure off of the employer and to
Mm,
give it to, like, take all the risk of retirement and pensions and to replace that with putting that on you. Like, oh, you need to
yes.
take the money because guess what? All these
Yeah.
all these companies were going belly up because of the pension that they had committed to for years and decades. And so the 401k is like, oh, here's a way to take the pressure off of the company and put it all on you as the quote unquote investor and to subsequently maximize and boost the stock market returns. I mean, you look at the returns in
Yep.
the 70s versus today. I mean, the massive amount of influx of capital into those markets is absurd. So it's just
Yeah.
it was
It's
definitely
absurd.
not for your benefit. It was for many other people like at higher places than you.
Yeah. I don't know. And great point. I don't know how well most people probably don't remember that massive shift that happened 20 years ago or so when 401ks, like all these companies were really starting to shift 30 years ago saying, oh my goodness, we can get rid of our benefits plan and just switch to 401k. And oh, we're going to do 2% matching because it cost us 30% before. And now we can do it down to 2% all day long. Right. And it just destroyed all these people who had worked for 40 years. It just destroyed their retirements. Right.
That's right.
And it just, yeah. And then that transition, I mean, there was blood in the streets for the average American. And corporations just such a good deal. Such a good deal.
Oh
There's,
yeah.
yeah, such a good deal for them.
Well, but I'll also say this, if you are an employer as you're listening to us, don't fall for the idea that your 401k that you're offering your employees is actually doing what it was intended to do. It's actually not creating loyalty
Right.
because they are transferable. They're portable, right? So the best employee you have, you're doing all this, putting all this money towards like trying to match their 401k, and they say, "Hey, I'm out." There's literally nothing in that plan that keeps them loyal. There's tons of different ways that you can structure it where it would actually be beneficial to you, where you maintain control and access to your money, but you give them a bonus structure. And that's a whole nother episode probably, Sam, but
Yeah.
the idea that they're staying with you because that 401k is a complete lie. There's no chance.
There's no chance. And for us, it's been the mission because our mission is to do good and it's to create a sustainable way to help lift people out of poverty. And that's been a mission that's kept people on our team for a long time. And then creating a path because to me as an owner, I want everyone who is on my team to have a path to um, freedom. And so we've built that into our system, right? It's like how do you get a path to freedom? And it's not about being a millionaire. $1 million is great and all. You can spend that in the weekend. Um, and then you can be broke again, right? There's plenty of stories of, I mean, the vast majority of lottery winners, they lose it all, right? Because they don't have a system to freedom, and freedom is passive income that exceeds your expenses. And so, creating a system for our employees to be able to gain passive income is really, really important, at least for us. And I think, it's going to be interesting to see how the future operates. A lot of new companies, a lot of people are starting thinking about impact, and we've seen how the world's responded to our parents who worked their guts out and then thought they were getting retirement, and then that was gone, and then I think the younger generation doesn't want that. They don't want to work 40-hour weeks for 40 years. And
well, I think they have good intuition, right? They actually have seen it fail. They've seen like, wait a minute, my parents talked about this thing that was going to happen and they're still working. Like they're not free,
right.
And they don't have their health, and they're hating life, because they're not getting to live in the freedom or in who they actually are. They're just kind of putting up with life. And I think the younger generation is saying that doesn't work. Something else has to give. And I mean, I think the millennial generation and younger get a bad rap for some of that, but I think they're actually onto something. And it really does come down to a system, Sam. I think I lead into this all the time, but most people have had on our podcast or I've been on their show, they've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? Mm-hmm. So I'd ask you, have you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Of course, yeah.
I mean, it's like everybody has. Yeah. But I would tell you that very few people who have read the book are actually financially free. So just knowing the formula doesn't actually produce freedom, right? Knowledge does not actually produce freedom. Yeah. There's two things that are missing that get people to freedom. And the first one is what you just said, is a system. If your cash flow system is all over the place and it's doing all these financial products that you've been told or sold that don't help you get to financial freedom, you're actually never going to get there, or it's going to be dramatically delayed.
Yeah.
And then the second thing most people are missing outside of the system is they're not investors. Like you may be a successful business owner. In fact, I know a lot of entrepreneurs that will never be financially free because they're too optimistic to be investors. But like, it's a blessing to be an entrepreneur and to have a business, and you're optimistic. Like, hey man, I can make anything work. Like, let's just push through and, get it done. But to be an investor, you actually have to have a lot of discipline. You actually have to have a lot of pessimism to look at a deal and say, I see these returns, but if you do the math, there's no chance that that's ever going to happen. These people are telling me, they're giving me a bill of goods, and my capital is going to be tied up for 5 years, and I'm going to be regretting that. You have to actually go into the situation and say, this deal doesn't work. Prove to me how it does.
Yep.
Instead of looking at a really nice PPM or PowerPoint deck and saying, sign me up. It should be good, right? So we aim to solve those two problems, right? Help people build a cash flow system that supports financial freedom, and then make them an investor, provide the training, provide the tools. Like we have custom GPT tools that actually help you build your buy box, know your investor DNA profile, and put those together with the deal and say, green, yellow, red. I'm in or I'm out, right? And so anyway, we can dive into all those things, but those are the things that I think are missing, and that's what we've sought to solve in the marketplace to help people get to financial freedom.
So in the military, we use green stoplight charts all the time. Just makes it so easy. Green, go. Yellow, something we got to solve an issue.
And then we can make a decision. Red is like hard stop, no, next. Right. I love that. What you have, Joey, what you have built, like I wish every American could take advantage of that, experience that. And so if for the folks who are listening on the show, how do they find you? How do they learn more about what you guys have built and what you're doing and how you can help?
Yeah. Well, we set up actually a specific page just for your listeners. If you go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/disruptive capitalist, I know that's a mouthful, but hopefully you can remember it easy, right? wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/disruptive capitalist. Then you can get access to some of our free stuff. I think we've got a quiz on there that tells you how close you are to financial freedom. And we actually have a webinar that is really good at training around the system that we're talking about. So you can kind of test drive it, if you will. But love to connect with you there.
Fantastic. We'll make sure those are in the show notes, or link is in the show notes. Joey, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I know we've got a lot more to talk about. Personally, I'm very excited about what you do and very happy that you're doing what you do. What the system has done to us in the United States has just been bonkers. And we got to fix it. The only people, it's never going to get fixed unless people go out there and do their best to fix it. So I appreciate your efforts to change the status quo. And man, I look forward to working with you in the future.
Oh, likewise, Sam. I love being here to talk to like-minded people. It's always my favorite.
All right. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
If this episode shifted your thinking, then share it with someone bold. And remember, capital is a tool. Use it to build a world you are proud to live in.